At Bexar Facts, we amplify the voice of the people to shape the future of our community. We gather and share fact-based data on the issues, attitudes, and trends shaping the greater San Antonio area. With the Bexar Facts podcast, we breathe life into our data. We aim to level the playing field by producing real conversations with real people and bringing scientific data directly to your fingertips. Bexar Facts, your trusted local source for community data.
Welcome to another episode of the Bexar Facts podcast. I am so delighted to be joined today by a good friend of mine, Hope Andrade. I'm Liza Barratachea, and I'm joined by my colleagues, Christian Archer and Demonte Alexander. And I'd like to start by introducing my friend. She has a history of wearing many hats and doing so many things at the same time and being a great juggler. Her favorite title is Grandma, but she has two companies, Go Rio River Barges, and also she's a partner at the Demonte Alexander consulting firm. She has served as the 107th Secretary of State and has also been the leader of the Texas Transportation Department and also the Texas Workforce Commission. And she is always saving the day in our community. She's currently serving as the chair of Via Metropolitan and also is the incoming chair at the Chamber of Commerce, where I worked for many years. And so I'm so delighted to have with us the Honorable Hope Andrade.
Yeah, Hope, thank you so much for taking the time in doing this. You know, could you do some more work to improve that resume a bit? I don't know if you've done quite enough yet, but thank you so much for joining us. It's a real honor to have you here.
Thank you.
So our tradition of saying something about a memory of you that we've had or an encounter with you, and there really, I couldn't just pick one. I remember very specifically when you were sworn into Secretary of State. It was definitely not the first time we met, but when you were sworn in, I remember how emotional I was about this woman, this Latina woman who had the great privilege of serving as the first female Latina to be, I'm emotional now, being the Secretary of State, and how just so proud I was of you. And so excited for you to be taking on this journey and the challenge. And both of us were then, helping Governor Perry. And so it was so exciting to me. And then I just can't not say that I have such a vivid memory of going to breakfast with you and Rolando Pablos before either one of you were a Secretary of State. We went to this little Mexican restaurant on San Pedro. And I remember thinking on my way over there, what the heck am I doing joining Hope and Rolando Pablos for breakfast? And what amazing careers you both have had since then, which was a long time ago.
Yeah, I think I don't know a lot. We haven't crossed paths too much, but I remember a few times sitting next to Hope during some important council decisions where she's very plugged into what's happening across the city. And then I've just had the pleasure of learning more now that Lisa's become a sister of mine in this partnership, and she just talks so highly of you and how much she respects you and the work that you do across this community. I'm definitely looking forward to learning more about you, not only in this interview, but as we move forward and some of the big decisions across our community. So I'm glad to be here with you.
Thank you. And Hope, just once again, thank you for joining us. It's a real honor for us to have you and for you to take time out of your crazy schedule to chat with us a bit. I've followed your career for a long time, and I've always admired you greatly. And when you became partners with Leticia Van de Putte, Senator Van de Putte, just what a powerhouse group of people to have to form a nonpartisan but yet bipartisan group. One of the strongest Democrats, one of the strongest Republicans. It was just really amazing to watch that come together, and what a powerhouse organization your firm is. So it's a lot like it, kind of what we started off with with Bear Facts was to pull together bright minds from the Democratic side, from the Republican side, and to have a nonpartisan polling operation that is focused on what's important to the city of San Antonio, what's important to Bexar County. Our mission is very clear. We amplify the voice of the people to shape the future of our community. And that's why we formed Bear Facts. It's a nonprofit. Our steering committee is made up of Republicans and Democrats so that we can really get down into what's important to the city.
Let me just say thank you so much for inviting me. As I think I said at the beginning, I feel important that I can be part of Bear Facts, because congratulations to all of you for the great information that you're providing our community and helping us make decisions and how we move forward. But, Lisa, you said you got a little emotional when you remembered that day back in 2008, and so do I still do. But I think the most important memory for me was having that third grade class of little girls in the front row sitting there from the elementary school that I went to. And, when that public event was all about me, I was very uncomfortable. But when I learned that I could bring in that class, it meant everything. And that's what I worked around. So, all of you have talked about the great things that you say I've done in this community. But I will tell you, I've had an amazing public and private life, and I feel that it's my responsibility to make sure that we continue in a community that gave me every opportunity. So I want to make sure that we continue that for all our young and future young men and women. So anyway, that's my opening.
Hope, I can tell you, you're an inspiration to all of us. And the truth is, San Antonio is lucky to have you, and that crosses party lines, that crosses gender, that crosses ethnicity. To have somebody like you in our community is we're all lucky for it.
Thank you.
And so again, it's great to have you here. Let me ask you something. So I'll just stop real quick. I just want to ask you one thing. Why San Antonio? Why do you love the city? What's important about San Antonio to you?
Born and raised here. And, a couple of times they've tried to get me out of San Antonio for other reasons. And, not knowing where I can get the best Mexican food, or, how I can access, just wasn't for me. And so I love our city. I'm so proud of it. And, now, as Lisa said, I'm a grandmother. And I always tell the boys, they can go out of Texas or out of San Antonio, but they must come back. And
right. Well, let me ask you this. I don't want to get you in trouble. What's your go-to Mexican restaurant?
Oh, I can't say that. I would get myself into trouble. But of course, my business partner is Lisa Wong, and Rosario's is absolutely the best. And of course, and I celebrate a lot at Mi Tierra. So so those two. But let me say this. San Antonio, I believe, is a city that gives everyone an opportunity. That as long as you work hard, you can reach whatever you want to. And that's what I want to make sure that's what I want to make. And, for me, it was about small business. I started a small business, and I will tell you, it changed my family tree forever. And I want to make sure that this city continues to be as business friendly as we can, so that we can have lots of new startups and lots of people changing their family tree. And it's just a great way to give back to your community, creating jobs. And when you get successful, giving back is just the way we do it here. Enough of me. So tell me what I'm supposed to discuss.
Yeah, well, so I wanted to talk to you. When we formed Bear Facts, it was really a matter of what's important to people. Hope, I think it's very similar to what you were saying. We wanted to make sure that our elected officials and the influential people in our community, whether it's an activist, or whether it's the leader of the food bank, or an elected official, mayor or county judge, that they understood what real people are saying are issues that matter. And we found some surprises. We found that homelessness is the number one issue across the board, across across ethnicities and gender and age. But we also wanted to test our CPS Energy and SAWS and VIA. And I got to tell you, it was a surprise to me how powerful people rated VIA across our city. And when you look at the 4 polls that we've done, starting back in February, the strength of VIA was just there. And so, having just coming off of this election in November, I want to congratulate you on such a powerful victory for the 1/8 of a cent in sales tax. Originally we supported, we showed that the support in our Bear Facts poll for this initiative would be around 59%. And the truth of the matter is you guys just crushed it. Coming in at 68% is unparalleled in elections. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on the election and what's next for VIA.
Well, surprisingly, I can stay seated when I'm still so excited. To get 68% of a favorable vote for the referendum that will ensure the future of VIA is just unbelievable. To think that for 40 years VIA has been underfunded, and that it never took advantage of that full cent which was allocated for public transit, but we've been living on half a cent, and yet we've done a great job. And those of us that are in the public transit understand the role that VIA plays, but oftentimes you hear about the people that don't ride the bus that think, well, it's not important for me, my family doesn't use it, I see empty buses, but the truth of the matter is that we take people to opportunities. We take people to medical appointments. We take people to school. Look, when I was a kid, I rode the bus to school. When I worked after school, I rode the bus from school to the job and from the job to my home. So those of us that have used it understand it. And that's why I thought that once you have a voice, use it. Use it to do something good for our community. And I've always thought that a city without public transit, how can you be competitive? How can you be able to provide transportation for the most vulnerable, those that need transportation the most, but also economic development. I was involved as Secretary of State in bringing companies to Texas to look at our cities and or explore the opportunities that our communities were offering. And one of the questions that was always asked is, tell me about your public transit system, because they were concerned about how they were going to get their employees to and from work. In fact, some companies didn't want to deal with parking situation or traffic. They just wanted public transit. So I know why it's so important. So when you did your poll and it showed so positive, you certainly re-energized us to keep moving forward. So thank you so much. But public transit is part of our community. We've got 1 million people moving in, about 1 million more that we're going to have by 2025. We're not that silver bullet that's going to, solve congestion issues, but we have to try everything. And so this funding is certainly going to bring us up to par, with Austin and Dallas and Houston, because they've been collecting a full penny all since the inception. And oftentimes people will ask me, well, why are we just a bus system? Well, we haven't had any funding. But now it gives us an opportunity to put our Keep SA Moving plan into action. And also, most importantly, we're going to be able to be available to take advantage of any opportunities that may come down from the federal government. We hear that there might be an infrastructure stimulus package. Well, guess what? Even though we're not going to collect the money till 2026, okay, we can apply for those grants because we now have a viable funding source for our local match. And that's why all this is important. We're very excited and we're grateful to the voters that voted in our favor, and we certainly will build a system that everybody will be proud of. And it will better serve our community and our riders, so they won't have to wait so long, because we're going to increase frequencies and we're going, the county judge is always talking about technology. He wants to make sure that we've got an innovative, and so we've committed a portion of that new funding towards innovation. And so everyone's excited. Everybody's been very nice about sending congratulatory, but the congratulations should go to the voters.
Yeah,
Hey,
but Hope,
Bob.
hang on. You got a clear mandate, and I think look, we're dealing with the pandemic and all of the backlash from the pandemic and the economy, and it got politically sticky there for a while, and you weren't afraid to make your voice known. Your editorial in the Express News was so powerful that I think that's why the mandate, why you were even so high above what we polled, and I thought our polling was high, and to crush it by 10 points was a clear mandate. So once again, congratulations. I didn't mean to interrupt, Lisa. I just had to make that point.
But you bring up a very good point. Look, once again, we proved that if we all sit at the table, okay, and stay at the table, we can resolve this. And we reached a compromise. City leaders got what they wanted in the Keep It, the workforce program, which is much needed during this time. And then we're going to collect the funding. So it allows us to plan for the future, but we found a way to compromise. And so we're very proud of that.
Hope, I wanted to say in your role as the chair of VIA, you also have worn a hat of the head of the transportation, and you've been involved in transportation for a long time. I know you served as on the Texas Turnpike Commission, right? Was kind of your entree into public service, and so you've been in this transportation world for a long time. When you see Austin passing a $7.1 billion tax rate increase to boost transportation system in Austin, like what does that do for you? And what do you see as a leader in transportation and transit in San Antonio as what's next for us? I know we have a plan, but what do you see as what's moving us forward? Because the 8th of Ascent it's wonderful. It's much needed, but it's small compared to $7.1 billion like our neighbors are getting.
Don't ruin our high on $38 million. We are grateful. We are proud, and we're going to do everything that we said we were going to do. But you've got to remember, Austin was way ahead of us on the funding. I congratulated the mayor yesterday, and that is a huge success for him. I mean, I was in Austin this week, and I was looking at all the signs that were recall the mayor and all the opposition, but he made it, and so Austin will benefit from his being able to take that risk and believing in that. But they've got a rail system. In fact, I think it opened in 2010 when I was in office, and I was so excited for Austin because I had attended the grand opening of DART in Dallas. And Senator Hutchinson had invited me to participate in their grand opening. And I remember writing it and thinking, oh my God, the day that San Antonio will be multimodal will certainly be a celebration. So it's a beginning. Okay, we're very happy. We're very grateful to the voters. I'm not taking any of that away. But it gives us now an ability to plan more for the future. So we'll see what the next leadership can bring to the table to keep moving public transit forward.
Well, on the note of elections, as the former Secretary of State, I'm sure that it was exciting to you to see such a turnout from our election. There's 1.1 million people who are registered to vote in Bexar County, and 716,000, I think, was the number of people who actually voted, which is a record for us. So, wearing that hat and thinking of the days as the head of the elections in the state, what are some of your thoughts on the election and on turnout and about the ongoing increase in activity from an electorate?
Well, by the time you finish asking me questions, you're going to learn that I always look at the good in everything. and that's what keeps me going. But I was, again, very proud of our 254 election administrators throughout our state. Because, when I was Secretary of State, I visited with most of them. And when I met them and heard how hard they work to make these elections successful and how committed they are to the process and to the integrity of the process, I was confident that Texas would once again have a great election, especially when it was led by Secretary Hughes, who I've had the opportunity to visit, and I so admire her, and she's done an amazing job there. But also the staff. When I was Secretary of State, we had a young woman that had been there for many, many years, and she was certainly an expert. So I think Texans can feel confident that we're going to have a successful election because of the people that run the elections, starting at the Secretary of State's office. So the fact that we had a record-breaking turnout, I know made everyone that works in elections very happy, because at times we've had elections and not that many people turn out. So trust me, they were very happy to see the success of an election, of a huge voter turnout election. But I'm confident that everyone that works in this area, it's all about following the law. It's all about making sure that that people respect the process, and they wouldn't do anything to embarrass the state, because we're all very proud when we work on behalf of their communities and the state.
Yeah. So, Hope, speaking of turnout, and this is all against the pandemic in the background. On our last poll, we had an opportunity to ask a battery of questions in terms of different voter access opportunities, in terms of policy changes, right? And so, just kind of wanted to get your idea of what are your thoughts on the responses we got regarding that support and additional voting by mail, and how can we continue to improve voter access, in your opinion?
Vote by mail, and it's always worked out. Questions arise. But questions arise on everything that we do. Somebody will ask you a question. But I'm confident that, again, I respect the process, and I know that everybody does what they're supposed to do to make sure that all mail-in ballots are counted, and that they are for the people that send in their ballot, that they match them with signatures and so forth. I'm confident that everyone that works in elections does that. When I would attend some of these conferences with other secretaries of state, other states are doing other things that people would like for Texas to do. But we're a huge state. You have to remember that it's not easy for us to change something overnight. And when you've got a small state that has a few 100,000 people, it's very different from a state that has millions of people. So although we all want to encourage higher voter turnouts, we always have to do that, understanding that we have to follow a process and that we have to follow the law. We wish we could do more, but we always have to keep that in mind. So just know that Jackie Callan does an amazing job, but when she was asked to do all these different things, as much as she would have wanted to do, she was kept from doing that because she couldn't do it. It would not be within the process.
Gotcha.
Do you think that there's a future for additional opportunities for additional voting? I think that as Republicans, that we kind of get pegged of like, oh, well, we don't want all the votes. We don't want more people to vote. And I'm always like on the side of democracy of like, well, why wouldn't everyone should be able to vote? Why would anyone want to suppress voters? And so do you think that there's opportunity legislatively for additional voting accessibility?
Remember that I never created policy. I followed policy. So the perfect example that I had was, during my tenure, we were talking about photo ID. And I always used to find it interesting that most people thought that we had photo ID in place. And then when I would hear the discussions on the floor, and I knew that it was going to pass at that time, I would always ask myself, why aren't we focused on how to make sure that people have access to get a photo ID instead of just saying, no, we don't want photo ID. So it's up to the legislation on that, because they set the policy.
Well, Hope, if it's all right, I'd like to ask you kind of a question that I like to ask everybody. And given your background as a business owner, as the incoming chair of the chamber, and you're former head of Texas Workforce, if you were let's say mayor for the day, or if you had a magic wand, is actually how I usually ask the question. If you had a magic wand, how would you see us coming out of the COVID-19 crisis, the pandemic, how badly it's hurt our economy in San Antonio? If you had a magic wand and you could fix one thing right now, what would you wave that magic wand at? What would be your top priority without any restrictions?
Well, Christian, I want to make sure crystal clear that everyone heard that I am not running for mayor, and that I applaud those that do run, and that I believe we've got some strong leadership now. So let me make sure that I am not interested in that. And I think those of us that don't run for office certainly appreciate those that do, and we support them. But I also think that we can influence in our own roles.
Right.
I think the difference for me is the fact that I always think as an employer, and I always think as an entrepreneur. So I always attribute that my success at my state offices that I served was because I brought the private sector into the public sector. And I brought it with enthusiasm. I brought it with, we were going to exceed performance goals, and everyone, we all had a great time. So everything I do, I think of it as a business person. I think of it as an employer. So I think that, one of the things I certainly would do is that I would first find out from our employers, because they're the ones that are creating the jobs. And the most important gift that we can give anybody is a job. Okay. So I would start off with the business community. What is it that we can do to make sure that we meet your needs, okay, for you to keep growing, keep creating jobs, keep offering opportunities, attract more businesses to our community to offer jobs, retain our headquarters that are officed here. We don't want to lose anyone. So I'd start with that first. I think that sometimes we start, with the ones that are going to provide the service, but my fear is always that we may be providing workers or skilled workers that maybe there's no demand for. And then they've spent this time in some training program and they're discouraged because at the end of the day, there's no job. So I would start the other way. I would start first finding out where are the jobs needed, how many are we going to need, what kind of employees we need. Also engineers, how many engineers are we going to need, how many accountants are we going to need. And then I'd go back to the education institutions, to the colleges, and say, okay, how do we meet these needs? That's just how I think and how I do things. When I was always promoting Texas, it was those were questions that were asked of me, and I will tell you, at times, if the company that was considering us felt that we weren't going to have the workforce, they'd pass up on us. So I always thought we needed to have kind of a special promotion. San Antonio graduated 24 engineers, and send an announcement out. Or we've got to promote ourselves in the fact that it's not location as much as it is about workforce. I always just say it's location, workforce as to the reason that people come to San Antonio.
Mm-hmm. So you have a really, wearing your hat of the head of the Secretary of State, and then as Workforce Commission, and now you transitioned into this. Now you're the head of the chamber, and then you always have that air of, as a business person, this is what's important. Like how are all those pieces in your experience? How is it plugging into what's going on with workforce and the mayor's jobs initiative, and how will your experience, like where is that? How is that going to help build this effort that the mayor has rolled out? And I mean, I feel like that you're so uniquely equipped to help us be successful with the workforce program, with the chamber, knowing what's going on with the workforce commission. You're so uniquely equipped and to have such a great oversight and insight into how those things work.
I'm very excited to be serving as incoming chair for the San Antonio Chamber. And so we've already started some discussions on making sure that our employers understand every resource that's available to them to help them. Some employers have lost employees during this pandemic. And, if there's been a furlough or a layoff that they haven't been able to get back. So we just want to make sure that, hey, San Antonio's got your back. We're going to make sure that if you lost employees and here is a training program that can meet your needs. And so once again, it's making sure that the employers know of every resource available. But as we start next year, our theme at the chamber is going to be one city, because we want to make sure that our downtown has been the one that's been affected the most, our tourism, our hospitality, and we need to provide them some optimism. How do you do that? You provide them some optimism by saying, you know what, we're here to help you. It's our turn to bring business back to downtown San Antonio, and all of the city is going to join. Well, I'm asking all of the city to join in that effort, so we can restore the vibrancy that we had downtown. When you drive up and down the streets now, it's sad. When I see people starting to come back on the weekends, I spend weekends working out on the river. Oh, I'm so excited. I want to really stop people and say thank you for coming out. What can we do for you? Of course, they think I'm a crazy lady. Like, why? What are you doing? So anyway, but yeah,
we need to get you a special hat or something.
Well, they finally gave me a shirt so that people didn't think I was some crazy lady. So now they know. But yeah, during these times we need some optimism. We need to know that we're working in a city that believes that of the role that businesses play, and that we need to help.
I'm glad you talked about tourism.
Yeah, Christian, did you want to jump in? Do you want me to? So I think what I'll get into. I think you mentioned all the things that you've been part of and all the things that need to happen. And you just recently Lisa talked about the chamber and some of the things that need to happen going forward. And we recently, a few episodes ago, we had the pleasure of speaking to former speaker, Joe Strauss. And what a statesman. And he, basically, I'm going to quote what he said, is being a leader means making hard choices and coming together on the other side of the aisle. For most elected officials, especially on an election season, working in a pragmatic and bipartisan way can be a huge risk. But he also told us he wants to see both sides come together, even at the risk of going against the party lines. And my question is, what do you all think needs to happen to get more people focused on the things that Democrats and Republicans have in common versus what we see much now, a focus on what our differences are?
Stay focused on the end goal and what that is. And I think that those of us that have worked together, that are on different sides, look at the firm that Leticia Vanderput and I have put together. I'm so lucky to have an opportunity to work with her because she's got history on the past 25 years, and I just love hearing everything that she's done. But what we have found is that we have more in common than anybody could ever imagine, because at the end of the day, we want what's good for our community. So I always think is that we may differ or we may disagree on how we're going to get there, but if we all stay focused on the end goal, then we'll make it happen. And that's what I say at VIA. Look, VIA was successful because of the board. And we have Bob Como, and for anyone that knows Bob Como, he's a union representative. Okay.
Yeah.
He and I have one of the best working relationships, and he'll often say, Hope is a conservative, but because you know what, when we sit at that table, at that diet, we're only about VIA, and that's what happens. That's why we were successful. Is on everything we did at VIA, it was unanimous, and I can promise you that maybe there was another conservative on the desk there with me, but we all agreed. And so yes, I certainly am a big fan of former Speaker Joe Strauss. I'm very proud of him and proud to call him a San Antonian. And I was part of that 2009 when he was elected as Speaker, and there was not a dry eye in that room when Wallace Jefferson swore him in, and I had done the election, and then we had all of the Bexar County delegation behind us. That was certainly a proud moment and a historical moment if you think about it.
Yeah, and I will speak to, Christian's vision, even us as our team, like we have all different views from even our team. And, Lisa and I have different views on a lot of things. But I can tell you what, we all believe in this city, and we all believe in what this data and what Bexar Facts can provide to the city in terms of guidance and a starting point to some of the biggest conversations or problems that we need to address. But I echo that. I mean, that's wonderful. Thank you for those comments. And like I said, it speaks to our organization and how diverse we are as well.
And you have to wear the hat that you're working for.
Yes.
I don't bring my personal opinions as much as sometimes I want to into the organization, but I always stay focused on the hat that I'm wearing. When I was on the Transportation Commission, my grandson at that time was about, I guess, 4 and 5. And when there was a new construction site, I would take him and we would park the car and we would look at the columns that were being built up, for the highway. And we'd sit there and we would just say, "Isn't that column beautiful?" And he would say, "Yes, Grandma, it's beautiful." And so always stay focused on what you're doing. And I'll tell you, it's just to drive by some of the things that I've been involved with. You don't have to take the credit. You just know it in your heart that you played a little part in there, and it makes it all worthwhile.
Absolutely.
Well, you are now playing a little piece in another big upcoming topic on the utilities. I know that the chambers have taken a lead on a campaign called Nope, the No Petition Essay. I know that the petition has started, and I don't think I've told you this, but when I was out at an election site on election day, I was encouraging people to understand what they were signing before they were signing it, which the people at the table were not very excited about. But I am very interested in what's going to happen with the petition drive and with the potential referendum. I know that having worked at the chamber, how important and critical our utilities are for economic development. And I'm very glad to see that the chamber has taken a role and taken a lead in that campaign. What can you tell us about the campaign and about the effort and about some of the plans to try to protect the utilities as we look to a possible referendum in next year?
Well, as you know, the chamber regularly serves as an advocate supporting or opposing issues that affect the success of our business community. And we feel strongly that this is one of those times that we have to step up. So I will tell you, the goal of the campaign is to thwart the recall CPS and the SAWS Accountability Act petition drives that are attempting to disband the governance and structure of CPS. So we've hired a contractor. We've hired a creative civilization that is working on a plan to absolutely start focusing on that and making sure that we don't give the opposition any indication that they can just move on freely, because CPS has the lowest rates of any large city in Texas and is among the lowest in the country. I don't know if people realize that CPS contributes $1 million a day to the operating budget of the city. And SAWS also offers the lowest rate among the top 10. So at the chamber, we felt it was our responsibility to bring a group of people together to help and support CPS and SAWS to continue on the path that they've been, which is a path that certainly has benefited our community and been very successful.
Yeah, and if I can just add, follow up to that, if you don't mind, Lisa, is, it would be an interesting time, obviously, being the head of the chamber in between the pandemic and obviously the economy and us trying to get that restarted. The city council election, a petition effort to obviously that we just talked about, and then the upcoming legislative session. How would you describe your governing priorities, or especially during the times of controversy?
Well, I think one of the things that we're immediately going to start working on is downtown. We're going to create a plan that will encourage people to come back downtown, and it has to start with our locals. So, we're probably going to promote something like come fill the beds at the hotels, come fill the tables, and of course come see the Alamo again, that it was closed for a couple months, and come enjoy the Riverwalk and all the businesses on there. So that's number one. But the other two is that we want to make sure that we keep San Antonio business friendly. We always have prided ourselves in Texas that in Texas, we grow businesses and we don't tell businesses how to do business because we respect them and we believe in them. And so I think that we want to make sure that we help our city council understand that how important businesses are, such as all the other organizations that everybody works on. But if you don't have jobs, if you don't have business, nothing else is going to happen.
Yeah, I hope if you don't mind, I know that it's going to be an issue that you're going to have to deal with, especially with the chamber regarding the Alamo. And I know that the mayor and that there's all of this kind of influx about the future of the Alamo. And I just want to get your thoughts on what is the future of the Alamo looking like? Obviously, it's a economic driver for our city and tourism. How do you see the Alamo playing out over the next few years?
It certainly is a major contributor to our economy and our visitors. I mean, there's two things that people will always say, oh, San Antonio, the Alamo, or San Antonio, the Riverwalk. So
and the Riverwalk.
Yes. And so, fortunately, I'm in both. And so I will, as my business partner, Leticia, will ask me, Hope, is there anything else that you're going to get more involved in so that she knows ahead of time? But the Alamo continues to move forward. The good news is that although, the Texas Historical Commission did not allow us to move the cenotaph, and that was part of the master plan, for right now, we're still continuing to look as to how we work together. So the General Land Office, the Alamo Trust, and the City of San Antonio continue to work together. So we're looking at other options. That doesn't mean that we're not going to go back to Texas Historical Commission in the future and ask once again. I think we'll probably do a better job in communicating with our Lieutenant Governor Patrick, since he certainly was instrumental in that decision. But we're going to continue moving forward. We've already started talking about the collections building. In fact, I think we just hired a contractor to start that plan. We're looking at maybe changing a little bit of the visitor center and not make it as large but we have to tell the story of the Alamo. Our visitors deserve that. Interestingly enough, I feel like our kids deserve to know the real story of the Alamo. So we're not giving up. We're still moving forward. We're regrouping. We've our fundraising has efforts. Have paused. We're looking right now, actively looking. We've hired a firm for the search of an executive director, and that's exciting. Think about it, to be executive director of the Alamo. Wow.
You're right.
So I think we're gonna be fine. It may take us a little longer, but there's definitely a commitment to all keep working together. The three major stakeholders, and also, hours has been spent on taking public intake, and that Alamo's very emotional. There's a lot of people that just want to protect it, and we're very proud and grateful for that. But we have to stay focused on what we plan, the story that's going to be told on the Alamo, and all the great things that are going to happen around there.
Yeah.
One of the things that we often ask our podcast guests is to tell us a little bit about their thoughts on Bear Facts and how you have used it, what you think about it. What have your thoughts been about our efforts, about the poll?
I think that I've been surprised at how much I refer to it.
Oh, wow.
I do, as I'm preparing, and I think, oh, well, let me go to Bear Facts and see the latest poll or what you all are working on. So I think that just immediately, and in such a short amount of time, you certainly have created the respect and the fact that people want to be part of using your numbers, your studies, your research for us to talk about it. So I think that's a great compliment on you all, and congratulations.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel like I should have given you that to say, but you did it all on your own. So
well, and you know what the most important thing is you're easy to find for somebody that's not as tech savvy as you saw. I was having problems dialing in, but and it's at no cost.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that, because I believe it's providing a great service as we plan for the future of this great community.
Well, thank you for providing all of your service to our community for so long, wearing so many hats, doing so much. and being so humble. You are an inspiration, a mentor. I'm so proud to call you friend. Thank you for joining us today. We hope to have you back again. We hope that you continue to use us as a resource. And please, we'd love to have you engage in our efforts more moving forward.
Well, I thank you very much. And just remember that I'm grateful to have purposes. And those purposes what re-energizes me. The only correction I have on you all is that it says you say that I've been working a long time. could you just cut it to maybe just say thank you for working so long on this?
We got a couple of the longs. We've got
noted.
Noted. Thank you
Thank
all very
you,
much.
Hope.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
It
you,
was
Hope.
fun.
Thank you.